It's Rebecca. So, insecurity exercise for today: poisonous relationships. I married my rapist, was my first husband. So, yikes. Gives you an idea of, how bad the insecurity addiction was just eating me alive. Because, I thought that the baby should have a father. So, his grandparents found out I was pregnant and basically forced him to marry me. So I thought it'd be all okay, and of course it was horrible. That lasted 2 years. I was 19 when we got married. And my second husband, when you're an insecurity addict and your addiction has really got a hold of you, insecurity is like a parasite. It'll steer you towards somebody poisonous. So you'll stay, fragile and broken and oozing inside so it can feast. I didn't recognize what my father was. He was very abusive. But he'd been kicked out of the house when he was 14. Slept in a farmer's doghouse, literally. Tried to go to school, had to quit school, go to work. He got his GED in his 50s. Very smart guy. Absolutely destroyed by the time he was 7 years old, emotionally. So he turned mean, which is the normal thing that we do. We usually turn mean or we turn twitchy, scared of everything. I thought that if I dated somebody who was in college and was really smart and was working hard for his education, that he'd work that hard in our relationship. Now, he was a scientist, and he told me when he first decided he wanted me. He studied me for a couple of months because we worked together at a restaurant. We were both waitstaff at U of I. And so he said he sculpted himself into my perfect man. I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And once he had me, it was just like the line from David Copperfield, I think. And once you were sure of her, you began to break her. Something like teaching her your ways. And gave her wounds that she died of. I know I paraphrased that terribly. But that line always hit me. And he was just as mean as my dad. Now, he didn't use fists. He didn't rape my children. But he was a malignant narcissist. And his favorite proof of love was that he was able to make me cry. Which is interesting because my dad said that was his number one goal, was to get me to cry, because he could never get me to cry. I was just stone-faced with him. But with my ex, I cried all the time. So don't think that somebody who's educated cannot be abusive. They just use their words instead of fists. And words can kill you. Look at these awful groups of people who, go on the internet and they want to get a notch on their belt of talking somebody into killing themselves. Why don't you all just die? That's evil. So look, if you're in a toxic relationship right now, what is it that's making you stay? I used to tell people I was proud that, I could handle his cruelty and his thoughtlessness because it meant I was strong. And I remember this one woman who worked with him, she just shook her head and she goes, "Then you must be a fucking oak." I think that that's where my self-worth came from at the time. It's kind of like how a pimp manipulates, the prostitutes. beats him down, keeps him down. That brilliant, horrifying documentary, Pimps Up, Hoes Down, where it's interviews with pimps and prostitutes. Great, horrifying documentary. And he interviewed this one pimp who'd been a pimp since he was a teenager, and he was in his 50s or 60s. He was still doing it. And what he said made my blood run cold, because he was talking about me. He said, what you need is a daddy fuck bitch. They're prime, they're gold standard. Because, you know, they got no self-worth. They'll do anything you tell them to do. Yeah, that's choice. And all I could think was, there, but for the grace of God go I. When I was homeless for a while, I considered prostitution. You know, just to make money. I was tired of sleeping in the car. And beat up old car, too. But you look back, when you get out of these daily war relationships, it'll take you a while to get used to it. I remember missing him in the bed. Not just sexually or anything like this, just the body in the bed. Even though he never let me, you know, cuddle or anything in bed, there was just something about having him in the bed. So when I was in a bed alone, it was kind of felt wrong. But, you know, we get used to what we're raised with. And so keep in mind, look at your relationship. If you're in a toxic one, what is it that makes you stay? Me, I was trapped by poverty and insecurity and illness. I was really, really sick for most of the marriage. Almost died a couple times. Did die on the table during a surgery. They had to bring me back. But first I got to the point where I was like, well, you know, this is gives me self-worth. This, you know, nobody else could stay with him. Nobody else would put up with this. Nobody else could bear it. But I can bear it. So that must mean I'm strong. And I took pride in it. If not for me, he'd be all alone, poor baby. And that's our mindset. I look back now and I'm like, what a scumbag. But you hang in there and start studying like you're studying for a test. Start studying, what is it about them that makes you want to stay? And what is it about you that keeps you there? And realize that you are not a piece of shit. You never were. That was always a lie. And we are nobody's dirty little secret. You hang in there and find the strength. Build yourself up. It'll take a while to get free.